Hey guys, so a few weeks ago I had a guy from Wake Island Sports reach out to me via email, and he was asking me if I'd be interested in taking a closer look at his new product, which is a battery buttstock for the AR-15. You see I've got it here installed on my basic BCM AR. This is basically one of my kick-around beater guns. Very nice gun, don't get me wrong, but it's not equipped out with anything crazy. I've just got a few essentials on it, like rudimentary sights. This is an old Iraq War bringback unit. A ProTac Stream Light, which is HLX. It normally has a pressure mount on it, but right now didn't feel like breaking out the pressure pad or taking it off the other light that I've got it on right now. And Hex Mag magazine, Phase 5 weapon systems, equivocal to a bad lever, but it's not a bad lever. And it's got that new Wake Island Sports buttstock on the back. And if it looks a little rough to you guys at home, that's because this is actually a 3D printed prototype. And unfortunately, because of that, it does rattle a bit, and not because the dimensions are off. The dimensions are actually fine. What it is they made it for a commercial receiver extension tube as opposed to a mil-spec one. But I spoke to the inventor, and he told me that this was going to be addressed in the production model. So some interesting things about it. It had no documentation whatsoever, so I kind of just mucked around with it and wanted to see how it held up. It's kind of weirdly balanced, and if you've got an already back heavy AR, which most people don't. Most guys running a 16-inch AR, it's a little nose heavy. This is actually, because the battery pack itself is fairly heavy. So it really does a long way in balancing the gun out, but the adjustment portion right here where my thumb is, makes it engage into the various slots on an M4 type collapsible buttstock tube. But what separates it obviously from a standard buttstock, other than the turquoise recoil pad and very blocky design, is the fact that inside of it is this little battery pack. This thing charges via a USB port and has two output ports on the back, which allow you to charge two devices simultaneously. The unit arrived at 67% power. It took about 3.5 to 4 hours to fully charge from 67%. And when I charged my Android phone, it charged it in about an hour from 80% to 100%. So you can say it'd be 300 minutes to go from 0 to full charge. This is with a Google Pixel and a rapid charging cable. What's really interesting is the rate of exchange of power between this guy and my Pixel was about 2 to 1. It took about 1% of this buttstock's power to give me back 2% of my phone's power. Which is really not bad, right? I mean, this is pretty cool. And I think this, combined with one of those portable power generating units, that like the one that you can burn wood inside of that generates a little bit of power, would be a pretty cool combination, because you could generate power at your campfire, whatnot, then take that power you generated with you. And I think for something like a survival gun or a bug-out gun, it'd be really interesting to be able to have the capacity to charge all of your electronics wherever you go without having to worry about another battery pack. Now the unit does include both charging cables, one for like an iPhone and then one to plug it into like a USB device to be able to charge it. I had to use my own USB device because I don't have an iPhone. And there's a little display here and there's a little cutout for it. And you press it, it turns on a lit LED display and it tells you the current power supply remaining inside the battery. When it's plugged in and actually outputting power, it'll say out and it'll flash out in the top left corner of the display unit. So far it's held up pretty well. I've installed it on this BCM carbine, of course. I've put it on a SIG MPX with a adapter from Lage Manufacturing. And I also put it on CMMG's Mutant, which is an AR-10 and 7.62x39, and I didn't have any problems with it. The unit never came loose, but I will say in its current iteration, because it is a commercial diameter buttstock unit, it rattles enough that when you're trying to quickly deploy the unit, it can oftentimes come out of these little slots. It never came completely off. It'll go to the most open slot, and I think that has more to do with the fact that there's enough play in it right now that it's not tight enough for this little peg here to fully engage. I will say, because of the positioning of this little locking peg right here, there's currently no way to lock it in its most collapsed position, which, not a big deal to most shooters, but given the fairly long length of pull on the stock, this is the most comfortable position for me personally in terms of using the AR and getting, nose to charging handle. Overall, without seeing an MSRP on it, I think it's a great idea that holds merit. I would like to know what happens to the battery if it's shot, and I would like to know about the longevity of the battery and how waterproof it is, because a lot of guys don't baby their ARs, and these ports do not seem to be sealed. That said, it's nothing that a little cellophane couldn't fix, or a little waterproof tape on the ports themselves. I think overall it would be a pretty good survival tool, assuming that it has some resilience to being submerged in water or at least getting wet. And anything that allows me to take power with me and take more of the tools I would want to grab in a quick bug out or get out of dodge kind of kit that I can strap onto my AR is a good thing. And while I wish it wasn't quite so long, I could be completely okay with that if they move this locking mechanism a little bit further back. But given the construction of the unit, I don't think that's possible in its current iteration. But like I said, the idea definitely holds merit, and I think for like a survival gun or a bug out gun, this thing could be a must-have. Now, in terms of availability, the stock is not for sale yet. The Wake Island Sports guys are starting a Kickstarter here pretty soon. And so if it's something you think you'd be interested in, throw a few bucks their way, or don't. It's up to you. I don't care, to be honest. It's not something that I'm paid for, so I don't just think I'm a paid shill. But I think it's a pretty cool idea, and I would definitely like to have one, assuming the price is right. Thanks, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more burst reviews.